Yo, what's good, everybody? It is your boy Golden Falls, Golden What Ifs, whatever you want to call me, and I am back. This is What If Deku Had a Martial Arts Quirk, and this is a movie. Seems like you guys have been really enjoying these movies. Seems y'all have been absolutely loving them. If you want to continue to watch these full-length movies, you have to leave a like on this video, leave a sub. If you're not subscribed, make sure to subscribe. You can always unsubscribe later if you don't like the content. But make sure to leave a comment as well. All that stuff, it helps so much. And it helps the video so much. And if you want to continue watching stuff like this, please show your support in any way you possibly can. We have a membership. You can check out my Spotify. You can join the Discord and the links in the description and all that good stuff. But with all that said, I don't want to waste much more of your time, and I want to get right to it. So let's get it. Izuku Midoriya is born into a world full of superpowers known as quirks. But there's one thing Izuku Midoriya growing up really absolutely enjoyed. And that, ironically enough, was a little kid watching fights, boxing, MMA, all of that stuff. He loved it, absolutely loved it. So when he was 4 years old and he went to the doctors, he was excited to learn that he actually has a quirk that is very into the idea, or useful in the idea of MMA and or kind of boxing and different combat sports and different, martial arts. And Izuku, hearing this, thinks, oh, this is awesome. Like, does that mean I can learn them quicker? And well, the doctor says, yeah, that's part of it. You can learn combat and also kind of martial arts a lot quicker. On top of that, you have some interesting things that you could possibly do. Now, with that said, there's really no way to pinpoint if certain things, and so you could do certain things, and if you could really learn everything, or how good you're gonna be at martial arts. But also, we don't know if you'll actually have anything beyond just the ability to fight. And the thing is yes, that would be helpful, massively helpful, but it doesn't mean it will guarantee you a way to be a hero. And Izuku, well, all he's thinking about is, oh, I have to start learning. I have to start learning different martial arts. And that's what he does, right? He's immediately would jump in to start learning, and he would go to, different classes for different mixed martial arts. But he realizes that the classes, they're so slow. He knows how to do everything that they're saying. Like, he's picking up on it like instantly. He sees them do one thing, they teach him one thing, and he immediately knows how to do it. So he decides that, you know what? There's a chance that he doesn't even need these classes. He's going to go online and start looking at videos of how to do certain techniques, and he'll up the ante and try to learn them to a large degree. And he does that, and over the course of a couple years, all the way up until he's like, 8 years old, that's legitimately what he's doing. He learns almost every single MMA type of technique or mixed martial arts technique you could possibly even think of. And he's really good at it, like insanely good at it. And Izuku continues to learn these things, and he goes to some high level, like kickboxing tournaments and high level jiu-jitsu tournaments, and these help him massively as well, because he's working and watching high level people in their regarded sport and learning from them as well, actually upping the ante to a even more insane degree. Like, he is insanely good at all of these martial arts, and he is basically a master of almost every single fighting style you could think of. And Izuku continues to do this all the way up until he's 15 years old. And let's make it very clear, nobody wants to mess with Izuku. Now, Bakugo, he does talk his smack here and there, but Izuku can stand up for himself. Like, if Bakugo tries to attack him, Izuku puts the absolute hands on him. And there's no way that Bakugo can just stand there, oh, I'm gonna shoot an explosion at you. No. Izuku would easily be able to get out of the way and absolutely beat him senseless if he so chooses to do so. But of course, he tries to stay away from fighting for the most part, at least when it's not really needed. And Izuku, well, he continues to basically just work on his craft, work on his art, and continues to basically work hard and prepare to actually get on to or get toward UA. Now, as he's preparing for this, though, Izuku is at school, studying and doing different things, and he hears about the teacher, and the teacher tells everyone, like, oh, we all know you guys want to be heroes, and there's no point of doing this career aptitude test. And Izuku just listens and waits and waits, and obviously Bakugo says, like, oh, he's gonna be the first person to get in to to UA high school from this crappy middle school, of course. And Izuku's like, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to get in too, so I guess you won't be the first person, and we'll actually be, the first couple people to get in, or the first, first people to get in. And of course, Baku was like, this is lame, like, and he starts talking all this smack to Izuku and saying, yeah, you shouldn't even try to get in, whatever, all you have is martial arts. And Izuku tells him, like, I mean, you say that now, but every time we've ever fought, I beat you badly. So what does that say about you? What does that say about your quirk? What does that say about your lack of quirk, I guess you could say? And Bakugo is pissed to hear this, saying that he should basically shut his mouth. Like, what do you mean lack of quirk? Like, I can shoot explosions. And Izuku says, like, why does it matter that you can shoot explosions when you literally can't do anything else besides that? Like, there's nothing else you can do. You're not good at fighting. You're not good at martial arts. You're not good at defending yourself. Nothing. So why does it matter? But you're trying to bring me down, thinking that it's going to be like, oh, like, yeah, you suck, blah, blah, blah. Nah. But you think that you're going to do something with just an explosion quirk? Like, come on. You gotta basically further your horizons, you could say. In which Bakugo obviously would be pissed that Izuku's even saying these things. But before he could even do anything, Izuku would already be ready to leave, as the teacher would dismiss everybody and Izuku would head home. He would head home and basically approach this bridge and walk underneath it. As he's walking underneath it, he's kind of writing about different things, writing about different martial arts, different ideas and different techniques that he could come up with himself, that he could potentially use. And that's until he hears something. He hears something that's coming. He hears a big, like this giant sludge villain burst out of a manhole cover and comes charging at him. Out of nowhere, Izuku has to react. What does he do? And Izuku, he tries to run away, but realizes that the sludge villain is catching up to him. So he turns and tries to do a spinning kick right on the sludge villain, but he goes right through it. Sludge villain tells him that he needs his body. As he begins to engulf Izuku's thinking, like, oh my goodness, like, there's just no way. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, how do I stop this? What can I even do? And Izuku himself, he begins to try and focus, trying to get out. He tries to punch and claw and scratch and move his way out. And eventually he feels his hands getting hot. This like kind of weird fiery sensation. No, it's as if his hands feel like they're exploding. He doesn't know what this is. He doesn't know how it even makes sense. But he then starts moving his hands, and then he throws a punch while he's in the sludge villain directly at himself. And as he does, an explosion would happen. An explosion from his hand. He doesn't know how it even occurred, but he knows that it exploded part of the sludge villain, and he's able to work his way out. Having only his foot stuck in the sludge villain struggles to try to get Izuku, as Izuku tries to throw a kick right at its eye, and he lands it, landing the kick, and the sludge villain would cower backwards right into the one and only All Might. And All Might punches him with a Detroit Smash, and he would get obliterated into pieces, as Izuku, well, he would be thrown all the way to the other side of the tunnel. And this is when, well, this is when he would wake up and he would realize, like, oh my goodness, like, this is All Might. It's All Might. And he starts slightly freaking out, like, oh my, this is insane. Oh, like, I look up to you. You're awesome. You're blah, blah, blah. You're this and that. And Izuku's like, well, can I have your autograph? And he's actually already given Izuku his autograph. And he tells Izuku, like, you know what? That was very impressive. You did some really, really good things. And he hopes to basically see Izuku going to somewhere like UA or some sort of high school that could really, really help him be a better hero in the near future. And Izuku thanks him, and All Might even asks, like, what kind of quirk does he have? It looks like maybe it's some explosion like quirk. And Izuku says, no, it's actually a martial arts quirk. That was the first time he's ever seen himself be able to do that. He doesn't know what it was, how it happened, but it must have been from just the actual need to survive. And he basically forced out an explosion, and it was all be through martial arts itself. In which Izuku is telling him this, and well, All Might's like, you know what? That's really impressive, like really impressive. And he wonders, how is that even a thing? Like, how was he able to do that? I mean, shoot, that's really awesome and really impressive, but is there really an explanation for it? In which Izuku's like, well, I have no clue. And well, that is obviously the real answer, but Izuku has 10 months to try to figure out kind of what's even going on and what's happening. And Izuku, well, he does use these 10 months to try to figure out how this explosion-like thing happened. It's kind of like when you have it's like an element to something. Like an element being connected to martial arts. And it's an odd thing to even think about, but how was an element of all things, like an explosion or like, like fire, ice, water, how is it connected to martial arts? And Izuku thinks like, I mean, how would that even make sense? How does an element, like an actual element, in terms of, water, ice and stuff like that, connect to a martial arts? I mean, or a martial art. And he thinks about it. I mean, seriously. And maybe it's something to do with his quirk, or it's definitely something to do with his quirk, but how can he recreate it? In which Izuku, he tries to recreate it over and over again. For 10 months straight, he's punching trees, punching anything he possibly can, but he needs to get that feeling. But then he realizes, what was the feeling that he was having when he was in the sludge villain? It wasn't being scared necessarily. It wasn't necessarily being angry. It wasn't necessarily being worried. It was frustration. And he realizes he has to feel frustrated, and maybe that explosion will come out once again. And he tries to get himself to feel frustrated about not being able to actually make the explosion happen once again. And as he punches the tree, an explosion would occur, and this would shock him. He would realize, this is insane. It's as if frustration is part of it, but he has to really be able to channel it without feeling frustrated. That's like really bad. It's extremely bad to be frustrated in a fight and frustrated when you're actually sparring or fighting anybody, because if you're frustrated, then you're not thinking clearly. So he can't just go into a fight feeling frustrated. He has to really channel this, channel the heat, channel the frustration, but in a different way. And for months on end, he tries to do this more and more and more, tries to feel the frustration or feel the explosion on his hands without actually channeling the feeling of frustration. And that right there is massively important. And Izuku, after 10 months of this, literally 10 months of trying to do this, he finally would get it. One singular element, one singular thing, and it's an explosion on his punches. Maybe his kicks, he hasn't really tried that much, but he knows for sure his punches. And it seems that Izuku will be able to do so much more than he could possibly even believe. And that is exciting for him, exciting for Izuku. And he's excited to see all of the stuff he possibly can do. And if his punches enact explosions, he wonders what anything else can do as well. And this would lead him to basically and eventually going to the UA entrance exam. And the UA entrance exam, well, it's a pretty basic one. Now, for starters, he has to go through the normal, typical written portion of the UA entrance exam. And that was, it's not difficult necessarily, but it's not also easy. And Izuku gets through it for the most part, kind of having a pretty good understanding of everything he has to do and a pretty good understanding of all the stuff that, he's been kind of preparing for and studying and all of that stuff. So he's ready for it. He does pretty damn well on the written portion of the entrance exam. But the next part is what's going to show everybody what he can really do. Because when he steps out there for that practical, and the practical exam involves robots that are going to be very, very difficult to break, well, he realizes that he's happy he spent 10 months perfecting the usage of his explosive punches, because this is going to help massively. And Izuku, well, he begins to punch through these robots, breaking one after another, destroying them. And he can feel these explosions in his punches as if it's just natural now. It's no longer what it used to be. It's no longer that it needs to be fed through frustration or anything like that. He now knows how to channel it, and that's what he is. He's channeling it. He's focusing it, and he feels like this will truly help him in gaining kind of more control over so much of his untapped potential and untapped power. And that is what he's excited for, because he destroys so many tons of robots, and eventually it is now time for the giant robot, the 0 Point robot, to show up. But luckily enough, Izuku sees the girl that's in trouble and actually is able to help her, but help her not by destroying the robot, but just help her by pushing and destroying the rocks that are on top of her. And she gets out of there, and they both get out of there pretty damn quickly, which is always an absolute good thing to deal with, an absolute good thing for this to occur. And Izuku, well, he helps in general and helps massively with all these kind of things happening. And Izuku helps quite a few people get out of harm's way of the 0 Point robot, and then it's done and dusted, right? The entrance exam is all fulfilled, and the entrance exam is handled to a large degree, and is now time to just wait. Now it's time to just wait for the letter to arrive from UA. And that's exactly what occurs. Izuku, weeks later, would finally get that letter, and finally get the letter from UA, seeing a hologram of All Might telling him that he got into Class 1A, congratulating him, telling him that he earned it, and blah, 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 and all that good stuff. And now he's just excited. He's excited to see what this adventure of becoming a hero, slowly but surely becoming a hero, has in store for him. And that right there is something that he can't even believe, something he can't even wrap his head around, but he's going to have to. Because when he walks up to that door, that giant door for Class 1A, he has to walk through it with an absolute confidence to him that he has never had before. And he does. He walks in and he's happy. He's excited and he can't wait. And what he realizes, though, and he realizes very quickly, is that this is going to be far different than anything he's ever done. And Izuku, he's excited, and Aizawa would eventually pop out of nowhere, as, you know, a bunch of the students are yapping and talking to each other, or trying to talk to each other. And he tells them that they're going to have a bit of a test, a quirk assessment, because screw the whole, orientation thing like that. Nah, that's lame. Like, we're not going to do all that. We're going to have a quirk assessment test, and we're going to have it right freaking now. He sends them all outside, and they're all prepared for this quirk assessment. And the first person up is the #1 student in Class 1A, and it's not Bakugo. It's Izuku Midoriya. And Izuku, well, he didn't actually even know this. He had no idea initially, and he might have just skipped through the hologram too quick, or maybe he kind of was too excited and didn't realize. But Izuku actually is the #1 student, and he didn't even realize it. With that said, though, I mean, yeah, it's exciting. Yeah, it's awesome. He still has to show what he's truly capable of, and that's exactly what he's going to do. And he's going to show off basically his ability to throw a ball. Now, this is pretty good. He throws the ball pretty far, but he's not going to throw it super, super far. I mean, he throws it with his quirk or with his kind of explosive punch, but it's not like the punch is made for raw power. It's made for accuracy. It's made for kind of a specific point on the body to use the explosion to punch through it to do damage to a specific point of the body. It's not necessarily to have this overarching giant explosion, right? It's not just raw power. And that right there is just the real idea behind Izuku's kind of power and his strength in martial arts. And Izuku throws it, and it goes pretty damn far. Don't get me wrong, it goes pretty damn far, but with it going pretty far, other people have more impressive scores, and other people have better scores as well, and this would lead him to having to actually keep up with his other scores, actually having to like really do well on almost everything else. And he does. Don't get me wrong. He does well on everything else. Because Izuku, he's fast. He's physically fit. He's all of these things. Like, he does really well on everything. He doesn't get first, but he gets in the top 5. And overall, he's very impressive. But his quirk doesn't shine in situations like this. His quirk doesn't shine in quirk assessments where it's all raw power, speed, and stuff like that. No. It doesn't shine there. Where it shines is technique. Where it shines is actually being in the fit of battle with other people. And that is where Izuku makes things seem massively unfair. Because where does he go? What does he do? Well, the next training session is with All Might. The next training session, though, is heroes versus villains, Izuku and Ochaku Uraka versus Bakugo and Tenya Ida. What do they have to do? Well, what they're going to have to do is basically retrieve the bomb, or touch the bomb, and that would count as capturing it. The villains have to stop them within a 5-minute period. If the heroes don't get said bomb within that 5-minute period, they also lose. And this is something Izuku was excited for, because this is how he's going to show what he's truly capable of. And Izuku, well, he starts by telling Ochaku that they gotta somehow find the bomb, but he'll take on Bakugo by himself first, and he'll basically show Bakugo what he's really capable of. Because Bakugo has already seen his little explosion thing, and he's not happy at the fact that he was able to do such thing and do something similar to him. But when the 5 minutes of planning are up, and he walks in, and Bakugo comes spiraling down, this was a bad choice. Izuku would immediately dodge the right overhand, and he would get underneath it, slamming him on the ground, and immediately just landing a blow that would knock him out cold. And Izuku would look at him and shake his head, saying that all he had to do was have a little bit more technique, and that wouldn't have happened. And he goes running up the stairs to find the bomb, and both Ochaku and him would find the bomb pretty damn quickly. And well, they would have to just take on Tenya Ida 2 versus 1. Tenya might be fast and he might be slippery, but Izuku is able to cut off the kind of the room, get him into like a sectioned corner, and he's able to knock him out with a head kick, putting him absolutely clean out. And All Might immediately sees this and thinks, yeah, maybe next time we don't have this kid try to straight up knock these people out, and just kind of secure them for the most part. They touch the bomb, and Izuku helps both Bakugo and also Tenya get to Recovery Girl pretty quickly, because he doesn't want anyone to have any extensive brain damage or anything like that. But with all that said, they pass with flying colors, and All Might thinks that this kid is something else. Like, he is on a different level in terms of just fighting capabilities. Like, I mean, this is insane. What else can he truly do? What else could he possibly do? I mean, he's able to use explosions in his hands for the most part, but there's so much more to it. There's so much more that he has the potential of doing, but he wants to see. He wants to see what he can really continue to progress in, and he wants to see if there's even more things that he could really learn and more things that he can really do. In which Izuku is excited to do the same thing, excited to see what he's capable of in the near future as well. And there's only one way to find out what he can really do, and that's just continue training, continue getting better, and continue pushing forward to doing better things more and more and more. And that's exactly what he's going to do. Now, the training continues, but there's going to be different training to ensue very, very soon. And that different training is going to be at the USJ, aka the rescue facility. And this right here is going to be really good for everyone, because they feel like, yeah, the rescue facility, like this is a good thing to really get into, because a rescue facility is very important for hero work, because at the end of the day, like, getting into and helping and working with the rescue facility is going to teach them a lot more about learning the ways of being a hero, a lot more about learning even more about being a hero. And Izuku is excited for this. He's really excited for this, actually. But unfortunately, Izuku, well, he's actually unable to continue this idea of hoping for actual rescue training, because when they arrive at the USJ with Pro Hero 13, well, the arrival of the League of Villains would put a halt to what's going to happen and put a halt to what's happening in general. And this would be unfortunate, because Izuku thinks, what are they supposed to do? Like, seriously, this is insane. Why are they doing that? What's happening? Blah, blah, blah. And Izuku's like, you know what? They have to stick together. They have to fight together. They have to do something together, right? And eventually, Izuku would actually get teleported away into a actual big lake of some sorts. This big lake would be kind of covered and would have villains everywhere. There would be villains all within the lake with water-like powers that are basically kind of these fish-like creatures. And Izuku is just thinking, like, this is insane. How is he going to get out of this? But luckily, Asui is actually able to save him. Thankfully, Asui is able to help Izuku out and actually save him from, being absolutely killed. And they have to come up with some sort of plan to basically somehow get out. How are they going to get out? What's going to happen? And how are they going to truly continue to try to help their fellow classmates or help anybody? And, well, this leads to them trying to come up with a plan. And Izuku thinks that, in theory, they might be able to kind of jump the gap with maybe some power with his punch, and might be able to jump the gap with kind of an explosive punch. Now, there's no guarantee, but they have to try something, right? So they do exactly that. They jump the gap with Asui jumping with them, and he tries to punch the air. And as he's punching the air, he would actually extend their jump more and more and more. Now, it's not great because it's tiring just throwing a ton of punches so that you can keep going forward and you can keep staying in the air. But he's able to at least soar for a certain amount of time to where they're able to get to the edge of the water and land and not, get absolutely destroyed by a bunch of people that are, in the water at this moment. Now, those creatures, those water-like people, try to come out and actually attack them, but Izuku is able to fend them off very easily, like knocking all of them out, exploding a punch on their face, easily just destroying them. And he's just more, in a technical sense, better at fighting than all of them. So in terms of fighting at an even kind of playing field there, it was not even close. Like, there was no way that that was ever going to go well for those people. And Izuku, well, he's now looking to get out of here and get to a safe space for him, Asui, and Mineta. And as he's getting them out, well, he sees Aizawa and wonders and hopes that he doesn't actually need help, but he wonders if he should try and help Aizawa, try and do something. And Izuku, well, he doesn't know if he should really go in and try to help, but he kind of stays away from it at the moment, helping Asui and them get out of harm's way. And now it's time for them to kind of get settled back with everyone else and get settled with the rest of their classmates as they watch Aizawa kind of take on all these other people and all this stuff. But Izuku thinks to himself that he has to go help. He has to try. I mean, at the end of the day, he can't just let Aizawa do all of the head work and get destroyed somehow, get beat somehow. And he goes in there and he tries to help, and he actually does help. He takes out a bunch of the other villains, and as he takes out a bunch of the other villains, he's for the most part actually doing some good things Izuku's doing some good things, taking out these other villains and setting up Aizawa to basically get out of harm's way from any up and coming other potential threats. As they take out all of the lower tier villains, Shigaraki would then send the Nomu straight at them. Izuku would land a punch on the Nomu, landing it straight on him, But as the explosion would occur, the Nomu wouldn't even stagger backwards, continue running forward as he would throw Izuku at a wall, and Aizawa would have to get out of the way, grabbing Izuku and jumping away. He would tell Izuku to stay here, but Izuku says that he's fine, that he's taken hits that are pretty damn freaking, really pretty damn hard. And yeah, that was probably one of the more, difficult hits to definitely take, but he's taken a beating before, and this isn't going to stop him. He stands back up with Aizawa, and he tells Aizawa that thing is a freak of nature, that they need All Might. All Might needs to get here because he doesn't know if there's going to be a way to really stop him, in which Izuku is just thinking that they need to do something, to basically stop this from happening. They need to do something to stop all of these things from occurring, or stop all of these things from, continuing the villains from continuing their onslaught. But all they can do really right now is just stall for All Might, and that's what they're doing. They're stalling for All Might, and eventually he would arrive. All Might would arrive, and he would be ready and willing to help out against the Nomu, and that's exactly what he does. He fights the Nomu one-on-one as Aizawa and Izuku get out of harm's way, but they need to make sure that Shigaraki and Kurogiri don't get into the fight, and Izuku is thinking that he needs to do something. He tells Aizawa that he could take on anyone here, like he can fight Shigaraki, but he has to cancel his quirk. He has to do something. In which Aizawa says, no. Like, he can fight Shigaraki. He can handle this or that. But Izuku says that he can help. He has to trust him, though. He has to. In which Aizawa looks at him and shakes his head and tells him that he has his back. That they'll be able to handle both of them together. And they'll be able to fight alongside each other. But just don't do anything stupid and go get yourself killed. In which Izuku nods his head and says he doesn't plan to, as he goes out to fight Shigaraki. As All Might goes one-on-one with the Nomu, Izuku goes head-to-head with Shigaraki, fighting evenly, but Izuku's technique is just way better. Just way freaking better than anything or anyone could ever expect. And he's way better, or way stronger than Shigaraki ever expected as well. And eventually, Izuku would get a hold of Shigaraki. Shigaraki would have his quirk canceled, but he would grab onto Izuku, hoping that he can somehow decay him. But as Izuku would flip him over and put him in an armbar, and would actually break his arm, holding him the way he is, Izuku could feel this sensation go over him. And Shigaraki, he begins to gasp for air. He wonders what's happening, but Izuku realizes that what he's doing is another elemental part of his martial arts. This is insane. People say day to day that when you don't know jujitsu, that it feels like you're drowning, that it feels like you are being submerged underwater, and that you don't understand and know what's even happening. And just like his fists, his explosive power may come from his hands, but his jujitsu makes people feel like they are drowning. And that's what's happening to Shigaraki. He not only has broken Shigaraki's arm, but he has kept him in a hold that has no longer allows him to actually even grab onto him, and he's drowning underneath it all. Aizawa tells him to get away from him because he doesn't want him to get decayed, that he's about to lose his eyesight. He has to close his eyes, and he does. And Shigaraki grabs onto Izuku's leg, and he grabs onto his leg, but nothing happens. Izuku realizes that the jujitsu is not only making him feel like he's drowning, but it's putting him in a different mind space, a different world, as if it's canceling his quirk entirely. But Izuku now knows that the canceling of his quirk, it might not just be this technique. It might not just be this martial art. It might not be just jujitsu. It might be even more than that, but he doesn't know. He knows for sure, though, that this allows him to cancel quirks, but also makes them feel as if they are literally drowning underwater, all the way until Shigaraki passes out, unable to move, and he's out cold entirely. And Kurogiri himself, he's in a bad spot as well. He tries to get Shigaraki out of there, but Izuku is already on top of him, and he might be kind of, mostly shadows and stuff like that. But Izuku already has him basically in a chokehold, canceling his quirk and also making it so that he's basically drowning as well, eventually leading to him passing out and the capture of both Shigaraki and Kurogiri. And just as this is happening, All Might finishes and defeats or finishes the fight with the Nomu and defeats the Nomu, obviously. And Izuku watches as all of these villains are defeated, handled, and Izuku and everyone else make sure that everyone is cleaned up and handled and handed into prison, and they're all put behind bars so that they can't help or can't hurt anyone else anymore. And after all this is said and done, Izuku gets kind of a nice handshake from Aizawa, telling him that, that was very impressive, but don't do anything stupid like that again. But they have to continue working with his quirk because there's so much that they don't know and so much that he could truly learn and benefit from that he doesn't even possibly or couldn't even possibly imagine the level he could possibly get to. In which Izuku nods his head and says, yeah, he agrees that the level he can possibly get to might be limitless, and he's really excited to see what's next and really excited to see what else he can possibly do with a quirk like this. Now, with all that said and done, there's so much more to do, so much more, and Izuku is on the horizon of basically going to the UA Sports Festival. After a couple of days off, the UA Sports Festival will be announced, and Izuku would be excited to really get into it and really get into what he can possibly accomplish in this UA Sports Festival. And what he can accomplish is hopefully getting the number one and beating everybody and actually winning in that regard. And that's exactly what his plan is, and his plan to do is. Now, the obstacle course race to start with is pretty difficult for him, and he actually gets a top 5 rating because he doesn't want to actually, kind of leave it all out there and, get himself hurt or whatever. But he gets like a top 5-ish rating in the obstacle course race, leading to him actually getting a decent headband for the cavalry battle. And then he also has Tokiyame, Meihatsume, and also Ochako on his team. And as a group of 4, they're actually pretty prepared. Like, nobody's going to necessarily be able to do that much, right? At least to them, because Izuku is really, really good at defending them and really good at doing kind of all of it. And he's able to even defend a ton of the attacks and use his explosive punches to really fend off and also just really fend off anybody that tries to attack them. And he does an extremely good in that cavalry battle, leading to him doing, he does really well, and it leads him to basically going on to the one-on-one portion. And this portion is a portion that nobody wanted to face Izuku in, because the first person, Hatoshi Shinso, would lose in very quick fashion with just a simple kick that would send him flying out of the ring. But the real person that, in my opinion, only has a chance, or really only has a chance, is that of Shoto Todoroki. Todoroki has the raw power to send Izuku spiraling out with just one giant iceberg. But if he doesn't, and if he starts slowing down, and if Izuku even gets close to him, the fight will be over. And well, Todoroki shoots a giant iceberg at Izuku, but with his kind of agility and his technique, Izuku is able to move out of the way, punch through the ice, especially with his explosive punches, and he would get through just enough to where he's closing in on Todoroki, punching and kicking his way through the ice. As we all know, he is stronger than the normal human being, and he would eventually get to Todoroki. As he gets to him, Izuku would punch him right in the stomach, as it would send him flying. He would catch himself with ice, but Izuku's on him already, immediately putting him in kind of a submission hold. And as he puts him in a submission hold, Todoroki can feel that he already cannot breathe. It's so hard to breathe already, and he can feel that he's slowly but surely losing consciousness. But as this is happening, Izuku would just kick him off and kick him right outside the stage of some sorts, just not allowing him to pass out or anything like that, just kicking him off and defeating him just like that. And that was the only person that would stop anything, right? That was the only person that had the chance to really stop Izuku. But now the 1 versus 1s are a clean slate for Izuku. Tenya Ida not standing a chance, and not only that, well, Bakugo, he has his chance to really show off and has a chance to really kind of stop this hype train of Izuku Midoriya, but not even him. He has even less of a chance than Todoroki, or far less of a chance than Todoroki, and of course Bakugo is absolutely destroyed via technique, and absolutely destroyed via everything that Izuku can possibly do, defeating Bakugo in the UA Sports Festival. And not only did he defeat him, he continues the idea of him being the number 1 student in UA High School's Class 1A, or the UA High School's Year 1 students. And that right there is enough for him to get a ton of offers from the likes of so many amazing heroes. But one hero in particular that he is really excited to work with is Mirako. Mirako, the rabbit hero, someone with insane combat skills, someone with insane capabilities, and someone that he knows will give him a run for his money, and also a lot of experience that he needs to learn. And that's exactly what he's going to get. He's going to get a ton of experience from Mirako, and a ton of experience from learning from her more specifically. And that's exactly what happens. He learns, he trains, he gets better, and over a course of like close to a week, he just flat out only just trains with Mirako. This even helps him learn more about what he can do. I mean, so much so that he's learning from Mirako's kicks, and as he learns from her kicks, he actually learns that his kicks actually have an element, or kind of an elemental factor of lightning. And this is insane. He has explosions, lightning, and water depending on what it is. Punches are explosions, kicks are lightning and or electricity, and his, well, jujitsu is water. And this is important for him. All of these things, everything that he's learning, I mean, this is so beneficial and so helpful for him as a hero and to continue as a hero. But the thing is, with all the training, all this stuff happening, they don't even go out to Hosu City. They don't go out and learn and train over there, or even go on patrols. Mirako's just having too much fun having somebody with such capabilities and such capabilities in martial arts that she doesn't even think about it. And all they do is train for like 4 to 5 days straight. And this leads to Tenya Ida being very, very wounded by the one and only hero killer. Now, luckily enough, the hero killer was stopped by Endeavor, but it doesn't mean much when someone that is a student was put into this type of scenario and was put in the hospital for a dumb decision that he ended up making. Now everybody heads back to UA and has to cut the internship short, and let's just say Aizawa tells them that he knows that all of them are worried and kind of, hopeful for the recovery of, the Tenya Ida, but they have to stay focused. They have a job to do. They have something to learn, always have something to learn, and they have so much to do because they have a final exam coming up. And even though Tenya Ida may not be a part of it and is still healing and hoping to come back to his normality, they have to stay focused and do this all for Tenya. And this is when all the students, all of them, start preparing extremely heavily for the final exam, because the final exam is what's going to really be able to get them to the forest training camp. And this is something that many of them are extremely excited for, but a lot of them will need preparation to get to that point. Now, all the written portion of the exam is pretty much simple for Izuku Midoriya, but the practical exam is going to be different than any of them could possibly imagine, because Izuku Midoriya is going to have to take on one of the teachers with a student of, well, the teacher's choice. Now, this is where things get a little bit iffy, because Izuku is teamed up with Katsuki Bakugo to take on All Might. Yeah, a fight that is pretty damn scary, especially when you're going against the number one hero. And that's who they're going up against, the number one hero. All Might will not be taking it easy on them either. Yes, he will have some restrictions, but he won't be taking it easy on them and let them win for free. And that's the reality of it. And Izuku, well, and Bakugo fall massively short when fighting against All Might. They feel as if it's extremely difficult, especially when Bakugo refuses to get on the same page. But eventually, Izuku would get a hold of All Might and get him in a submission, getting him in a rear naked choke, but he's obviously way weaker than All Might, trying to use his technique to actually get kind of the best of him. And Izuku has been able to avoid and kind of get into certain spots to where he's definitely getting the upper hand on All Might. And when he's giving All Might the rear naked choke, he's definitely slowing him down massively, making him feel like he's drowning. And on top of that, basically limiting the usage of One for All, or the quirk that All Might upholds. In doing so, this gives an opening for Bakugo to land an explosion that will land on both Izuku and him. But in doing so, it's not that All Might doesn't really take a ton of damage, but Izuku does take quite a bit of it. And he tells Bakugo not to do that ever again. Just escape out the entrance, or escape out the exit, I mean. And basically they can win like that. Which All Might tries to get Izuku off of him as he pushes through, and as he's a lot weaker and slower than normal during this time, he would throw Izuku off of him just enough to where he can now breathe and get his bearings. Izuku would look at Bakugo and shake his head, telling him that he really, really is an idiot. And Izuku and Bakugo try to fight with All Might once again, but this time around, they're unable to actually defeat him. And this would just piss off Izuku, thinking that he's such an idiot. What is he doing? Seriously, like, all he had to do was just do the right thing, properly do the right thing, and not be so stupid, not be so arrogant. And of course, that's exactly what he was. He was an arrogant idiot. And he tells Bakugo this just flat out, telling him that he's an arrogant idiot. And well, a fight would then begin to erupt, and Izuku would dodge, weave, and easily move out of the way of Bakugo. And he would tell Bakugo that this fight ends only one way. It only ends one singular way, and that is with him on the ground and him out cold. They've seen this, they've done this dance before, and he doesn't want to do this again. Bakugo doesn't listen and blasts forward toward Izuku, but as he's doing this, both All Might and Aizawa would get up, and they would stop the fight immediately, and Izuku and Bakugo would be dragged off and basically told that they are allowed to go to the Fair Forest training camp, but they're going to be doing a lot more work than anyone else, a lot more training, and a lot more kind of studying than anyone else ever will in the forest training camp. And that's exactly what happens. Izuku, Bakugo, they all get dropped off a mountain when they get off the bus for the forest training camp. They fight their way through a forest, fighting off Earth-like monsters, but eventually they get to that forest training camp, and they have straight up 1 to 2 weeks of just utter agony. The training is intensive, insane, and Izuku, well, he gets insanely more, or he gets a lot stronger, but he still goes through absolute hell. And there's one thing that he's been actually trying to channel, something that he's been trying to utilize more: the elemental factors of his quirk, the elemental factors of his martial arts, being that his punches are explosions, his kicks are lightning, his jujitsu is like water, it's like drowning, but there's so much more that he doesn't know. One aspect that he believes of even jujitsu that is going to benefit and help them so massively, and that is erasing a quirk from somebody, but he needs to understand how to do it at all sections of martial arts. He needs to know how to hit somebody properly to where maybe his quirk will get canceled for a short amount of time, or his quirk would no longer exist for a short amount of time, and that's what he works on. That's what he tries to train, but it's not that easy. I mean, it's easier said than done to learn something like that, but after the extensive training they go through, very fruitful training in fact, they would finally be done with the forest training camp, and they would all head back to UA. And as they are heading back with really no kind of knowing what's going on the outside and what's happening, they actually see that All Might is actually fighting All For One on the television screens, but a one-on-one with All Might and All For One, and with the other heroes deflecting the Nomus, All Might gets the best of All For One, but not at a cost, and at the cost of his own quirk, losing One For All and losing the last or the last kind of embers of it. And now All Might is done with being a hero for good, but with All For One in prison and the League of Villains defeated, at least there's one thing off the checklist that they no longer have to worry about. And Izuku and the rest of the students, all they have to worry about is training, getting better, learning their super moves now, and which Izuku definitely utilizes that time properly, learning more and more ways to kind of allow both the combinations of punching, kicking, and all those things to all warp together beautifully, in which Izuku even combines jujitsu and his kicking ability, which is a bit of a thing that he's thought about, where he makes the elemental usage of water combining with the kicking of lightning, allowing himself to really hurt somebody badly if he needs to do that specifically. But overall, he has definitely found his way around his martial arts, and he continues to prove over and over again that he is at the top of the list in terms of how strong he truly is. And through his provisional hero license exam, they actually put a massive target on his back, but it was a mistake to do so, because quickly 3 people would be eliminated when trying to actually eliminate Izuku, especially because it's not just about throwing the ball or throwing the balls toward and eliminating people via the lights. It's really about being able to manage your distance, understand what quirks are coming, trying to hurt you, and this and that. And Izuku, well, he's good at almost everything, and almost everything that you could possibly think of in terms of situational awareness. And Izuku is outstanding at this, going to the next part of the exam very quickly, and honestly so quickly that he can't really help a lot of his classmates, but luckily enough, his classmates are going to find their way through to the rescue portion of that exam, or the rescue portion of the exam in general. Now, with all that said, the rescue portion, or like kind of the more practical portion of the provisional hero license, involves quite a few different things. The things it would kind of involve are, for the most part, dealing with people that may be in trouble, that may not be as, or maybe they're not in as much trouble as other people, and so on and so forth. And they're dealing with a lot of different types of people, in fact, as well. And this is where Izuku really has to get better at as well, because it's not about just fighting. It's not about just, throwing hands and, beating people up. No. Of course not, right? It's also about doing this, about understanding, about helping others, and about doing your best when trying to save others as well. And that's what exactly Izuku Midoriya is learning, and also Izuku Midoriya is decent at for the most part, and he helps people out. He's pretty nice about it for the most part in terms of communicating with these other people as well. But overall, what he will really shine at is when the villains show up with Gang Orca, and Gang Orca starts facing off with some of the other students that believe that they can take him on very easily. But the only person that proves to actually be able to take on Gang Orca, especially, I wouldn't say easily, but definitely be able to take him on, is Izuku Midoriya. Being able to take him on and fend for himself massively and really show Gang Orca just how good of a martial artist and how good he is at fighting, because he begins to kind of intertwine his abilities, his explosions, his lightning or electricity, all of the above, and he begins to try and overwhelm Gang Orca. Now, with that said, he can't really use his jujitsu, being that if he uses it, he probably would more benefit Gang Orca, being that he is a, well, orca. So he decides to stray away from it. But in terms of keeping up with him and fighting him to, basically get the upper hand and try to maintain the upper hand, it's pretty obvious that he's able to do so, and pretty obvious that he's able to not only keep up, but fight on an equal playing field to Gang Orca to a large degree. And everybody's watching this and are extremely impressed. I mean, at the end of the day, this is absolutely wild that a hero in training is able to keep up with somebody of such high caliber as Gang Orca. And he's able to do just that in terms of keeping up and leading to a final attack between Inasa and Todoroki that would combine their fire and fire, or their fire and their wind, excuse me, and it would combine to make a vortex of some sort that would basically engulf both him, or Izuku Midoriya, and also Gang Orca, giving Izuku a chance to find some sort of advantage against him, weakening him more, and also utilizing kind of the environment to his advantage, where he would actually throw lightning around them as well, adding to the vortex, slowing and stunning Gang Orca to the point where the sirens would eventually go off and Gang Orca would be defeated, and everybody would be kind of done with the Provisional Hero License exam, and Izuku Midoriya more specifically would pass with flying colors. And this would be great. I mean, at the end of the day, this is something that Izuku was super excited for, and something that Izuku was super ready for, and now he is technically on the next step of becoming an actual hero, like an actual licensed hero, being that he is technically a provisional hero license now, or has a provisional hero license, is pretty damn a pretty damn big deal. So he definitely is excited to continue on with what he's been doing and continue on with everything that has been that he's been working toward. And Izuku, well, he just can't wait to do what's coming next, which would be working at for a work study. But before all that is said and done, Mirio, one of the big three, wants to actually test the entirety of Class 1A. And that's what they do. But the one person that honestly has the best chance when fighting against Mirio is the one and only Izuku Midoriya. Because his martial arts, his technique is off the freaking charts. So in terms of trying to figure out how to basically stop Mirio and how to, for the most part, actually get the upper hand against Mirio, he's the perfect person to do so. And he is able to do just that. But with that said, Mirio's no slouch, and he has even more power than normal because he is the actual user of One For All, and he is the successor to All Might, and that right there, whew, his power is ridiculous, and his strength is ridiculous because he's been working and training with this for quite a while now. And yes, Izuku is able to keep up, but it doesn't mean he's able to take him down. I mean, he has to mainly try to get a hold of him. And if he can get a hold of him, then it's a different story. But getting a hold of him is way easier said than done, and he's unable to really do so. But eventually, instead of just, the fight actually stopping via someone being knocked out or being stopped or something like that, no, it's basically stopped via Aizawa, and Aizawa basically is telling everybody to calm down, to stop fighting, and blah blah blah, and that's what happens, right? Aizawa, for the most part, is the one that tells everyone, hey, like, chill out, no more fighting, we're done here, right? We're done. And that's what happens. Aizawa stops the fight, and of course, this would lead to Izuku getting high praises from everybody, from the big three, from the teachers, from faculty, from everybody. And everybody knows the level that Izuku is at, But in terms of a work study, Izuku can't think of anybody else to really go with other than one person. Yes, he would get an offer from Sir Night-Eye, but the one person is Mirako. And that's who he wants to work with, and that's who he has, I'm gonna be honest, loyalties to, because Mirako has helped him so much. Even in that short amount of time that he was working with her, she was helpful, massively helpful in every degree possible, and helping in literally everything you could think of. I mean, in terms of fighting styles and fighting and training and all that, he got helped a ton from Mirako. So that's where he goes. He goes back to Mirako for the work study, and they have a ton of good training and all the above. But eventually Izuku is asked for some help to actually invade the base of the Shie Hassaikai. And that is where things go, and that's where things are ahead, because the base, or the invasion of the Shie Hassaikai base, is something that Izuku was preparing for massively, but also is massively prepared for in general. Izuku is excited to actually help as any way he possibly can, and that's exactly what he's going to do. Help every way he possibly can. And it's, at the end of the day, a really, really big thing to happen, and a really, really big kind of moment for him and everyone else, and a really big moment for just every single person at the Shie Hassaikai base, because this could be the potential end of the villain Overhaul. And that's what they're trying to do, shut Overhaul down. And that's what's going to happen. They go through the entirety of the base, and Izuku would eventually find Overhaul with Mirio as well. And Izuku would tell Mirio that he doesn't necessarily know his quirk, and that if he can get him close without getting him absolutely killed, this is where things can change for them. Mirio begins to fight alongside Izuku as they fight to protect Eri, and this would lead to Izuku eventually getting in close and grabbing onto Overhaul, putting him in a submission, and an Overhaul begins to feel the effects of that submission, feeling that he's drowning and feeling that his quirk no longer even works. Izuku holds on for dear life as Mirio looks for an opening to end the fight. And as he's looking for that opening, a bullet would ring out, a bullet that is headed straight for Izuku. And Mirio thinks that that's not good. That Izuku, he's going to get hit by that bullet and his quirk will be erased forever. Izuku holds on to the submission as long as possible, but he hears the bullet and sees Mirio and what he's doing, and he would shake his head, basically telling Mirio not to do what he's thinking. Don't do what he's going to do. Don't sacrifice yourself in the likes of saving him. Izuku basically turns himself around to the point where he's holding the submission, but no longer can take, Mirio can take the bullet for him. And Mirio's shocked to see this as he lands a blow to Overhaul, knocking him out cold entirely. And Izuku kicks him the same time with his lightning kick, and then he gets shot by the bullet in his side, the quirk erasing bullet then taking effect. Izuku feeling the effects quickly as the powers and everything he held no longer existing. Him having his abilities as a martial artist still, but no longer having the extra speed, the extra strength, the ability to control elements via the different martial arts. He is now feeling the effects of the quirk erasing bullet and feeling the effects entirely. And Izuku, well, he's put on the sidelines for a while. Put on the sidelines, unable to do anything, unable to really do much. But he decides he'll do what he possibly can. He helps his classmates learn different ways and techniques, trying to get them to be better fighters as well in their training sessions. But in terms of anything else, he can't really be bothered to do anything else. He helps with certain agencies, maybe different things like that. But his quirk, the main thing that made him so powerful, all the aspects of it are gone, right? So he has to just make use of his knowing and what he knows and what he's learned to the best degree. But that doesn't mean he can be a hero, at least at this moment. Not the hero that he was going to be and the level he was going to be at that point. But Izuku continues pushing forward continues to push on and on and on, hoping that one day that he'll be able to be the hero he wanted to be so badly, the hero that he looked forward to be so badly. I mean, he even kind of interacted and also basically was in Class 1A versus Class 1B, the training session, and they have a pretty interesting time as well. And Izuku does quite well, even in his group, right? Izuku does well just because he's really good at fighting and against these other students. But in terms of the quirks and all that, it is massively overwhelming for him. And without the strength boost that he would normally get from, well, his quirk, it also affects him massively too. But he's able to train with them, help them, and he does everything he possibly can in hopes of helping his classmates and helping his teammates to a large degree get better and become better heroes. So when he hears about a possible kind of dealing with a giant monster, he can't help but think that if he had his quirk, he could really help so much more. And that would be the reality of it. Izuku watches from the sidelines as they struggle with a monstrous creature known as Gigantomachia, who is on the loose and not thinking about his actions at all. It seems like Gigantomachia is completely out of control, to the point where he's not thinking, he's not feeling, he's not understanding. All he wants to do is kill the heroes. And all Gigantomachia is doing is laying waste to Japan. Everybody tries to stop him. They even have a massive plan to do so, trying to utilize the quirk of Midnight to stop him from doing any more harm. But even doing so, even doing all of that, it's not that simple. It's not that easy. And it seems that him being angered, him being enraged, makes things that much more difficult for the heroes, and that much more difficult for everyone else. But Izuku knows that if he just had his quirk, if he could figure out a way to help them, that he could help them. He knows he could help them. He knows that his quirk may not be perfectly at least perfectly perfect, or at least not in a good spot for this specifically, right? Not a giant creature, but he could still help. He could still do his best. He could still get a hold of the creature, and he might be able to actually limit the quirks that he actually has. The creature has might be able to limit the quirks in general, in which he thinks that that's it. It's all about where you hit. It's all about where you stand. It's all about what parts of the body Izuku Midoriya could really get a hold of, because that is where he'd be able to actually stop this thing from continuing its onslaught. Stop this thing from healing, from its durability, from all those things. But nothing. He can't do a single thing about it, and he just watches from the sidelines. But guess what? Eventually he gets a knock at his door. A knock at his dorm room door, and there's two people standing there. One of them being Shotai Zawa, and the other one being Eri. And Eri is there to give him back his quirk. And without a moment's notice, he goes straight for the battlefield. Straight to help his classmates and straight to help everybody in the fight against Gigantomachia. And when he arrives, he immediately would go for Gigantomachia, punching him in certain places on his body. And as he does this, Gigantomachia's body begins to slow down massively. And on top of that, a lot of the quirks that are embedded within him no longer work. Izuku says that he's not only been helping training the other classmates and students, he's been working on this specifically, knowing that one day, if he ever got his quirk back, that he'd be able to do this, that he would learn how to do this, and he would learn how to shut down or erase a quirk entirely. And that's what he's doing, erasing a quirk from Gigantomachia, and every punch erases another one. And as he does this over and over again, it makes Gigantomachia that much more less durable and that much more vulnerable to the attacks that they are ensuing on him and the attacks that they are doing. And, well, this is what they needed. With the help of Eri and the help of now Izuku Midoriya, things have now changed for the better, stopping Gigantomachia in his tracks and allowing Izuku Midoriya to possibly continue his journey as a hero, because there is so much more for him in this life, so much more for him in his hero journey when he continues on to his second and third year, approaching really the end goal of what he wanted, to be the best hero he possibly can. But in terms of facing off with some of the hero's finest, people like Mirio Togata, who have a future, a really, really, really bright future in hero work, he knows that it's not going to be easy to outshine them, but he is going to do his best to do so in whatever way he possibly can. And as the years go by, Izuku Midoriya's excitement in being basically what he is and how he's doing it continues to expand. His training would continue, and he would even open up a bit of a you could call it classes, and he would end up even be a sensei, very similar to Aizawa, where he would actually help out. He would actually do some really good things with helping those who aren't as lucky, helping those who aren't as keen on being a hero, because guess what? They don't really have the wherewithal. They don't have the powers. They don't have much. But Izuku can give them an option of martial arts, and not only that, he has the basically the want to even be higher up in the ranks on top of it. So he's not only helping the community, but he's also being at the top of the ranks of being a hero, striving to be the greatest, striving to be the best, even if he has to take on, the actual successor to One for All and the actual successor to All Might to be that number one hero. It might be difficult, it might be hard, but nothing is truly impossible. Nothing is, a guarantee to not happen. And Izuku Midoriya strives to be the greatest hero to ever exist. But with that said, that will be the end of What If Deku Had a Martial Arts Quirk, the movie. And if you enjoyed, show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, and leave a comment down below. All that good stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you guys want to see more movies like this, more videos like this, please show some love. Make sure to blow the video up, leave comments, leave likes, all that stuff. It all helps. I know it doesn't help a ton in terms of comments, but the likes, the watching the video through and through, that helps so much as well. It all helps. Everything you guys do, it helps, right? And I want you guys to know that. Now, with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.